Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio Campanile. With me, probably Alison McKenzie. I don't know if he will drop, but he has a little bit of issue with his Wi-Fi, so he'll try to be available for all the 35 minutes of this podcast. We have plenty of things to talk about. Lazio Sampdoria, the chase, the race for the fifth position. Binance owner in Rome. A lot of rumors of Lotito selling Lazio. Is it true? Is it false? And, reply to your question and maybe talk about transfer market because, we're still in May, but how many players have been linked to Lazio in the last couple of weeks or so? I don't know. I think we could do 3 teams out of all the players that have been linked with Lazio. But Alasdair, let's start with, was it Saturday night? Yeah, Saturday night, Lazio Sampdoria. Much needed win, a good performance, and it wasn't an easy match, right? Because after Genoa beating Juventus and Salernitana ramping up, etc., Sampdoria needed points, so it wasn't easy for Lazio.
Yeah, no, it was. I would say Lazio made it look relatively easy, to be honest. We kind of knew what they were going to do. They came to defend, to frustrate, and to take their chances when they came, which is absolutely fine. And I did wonder before the match if it was going to be one of those days where Lazio struggle with that and kind of toil, trying to work their way through a kind of packed midfield, packed defence. But in the end, I think the big difference was a completely revived Luis Alberto. And it's not the first time this season that we've seen Alberto being dropped by Sarri, and as a result, coming back stronger. Seems like it's a kind of mentality strategy that works with the guy because probably one of his best performances of the season. And he set one goal up, scored another one, and lo and behold, we're back to talking about Luis Alberto's future at Lazio again now.
Yeah, well, this is a perfect Luis Alberto assist because Carsten asked us, why is Luis Alberto such a great player against the weak teams, but almost a liability against the stronger team? And what do we want about it? The numbers tell us, Alison, that this season, Luis Alberto made 11 assists. Against the top 7 team of Serie A, only one against Inter in October. He made 5 assists against Spezia. 3 at the Stadio Olimpico and 2 away. I mean, 50% of his assists against Spezia. That's ridiculous. But Carsten got the point, right? He's top class against lower league team, but pretty much invisible against the top 7.
I don't know if it's quite that cut and dry, to be honest. I mean, I think that perhaps this season especially he could keep producing more in those big games, but I don't think that we've generally been seeing this kind of level of performance from him every single time he's playing against the relegation battling teams, let's say. But obviously, as you mentioned, with the exception of poor Spezia. But yeah, I think he's a player who requires like a certain cocktail of things to be happening at the same time in order to be at his best. I think he is a bit of a kind of strange one mentality-wise. I think he needs to be in the right headspace to be at his best. Perhaps needs to have the right level of motivation. I think he also perhaps struggles a bit when teams set out to silence him and he can't really work out how to get himself back into matches. But he's a momentum player, I think. I think he's one of these guys who once he gets going, he's quite hard to stop. But if he has a quiet first 15, 20 minutes in a match, often you can see him struggle to really get himself back into it. So I think we've seen this season Sarri's team has gone up and down, but I think Alberto probably the biggest kind of example of that of any member of the squad. And we saw that even yesterday on Saturday after the match when Sarri was kind of asked about that and said that, yes, Alberto's been working out what I'm like and I've been working out what he's like. And it feels like we're only just kind of at the point basically that they're understanding each other properly. So hopefully we get a bit more consistency from here.
I like that you pointed out the mental aspect of the thing. I was thinking more about a tactical issue. In particular, he struggles when teams marking on the for the full pitch, right? We saw him struggling against Atalanta. Let's not forget his performance against Milan. Uh, Away, at home, in Coppa Italia, he was pretty much invisible. So I think the mental aspect makes sense. But I think the biggest issue is he struggled when he's man on man for 95 minutes. If the other team put a player on him, he really struggled to find the right position. And the other thing is he was able Saturday to be between the lines, between the defender and the midfielder, and that made him very easy to be available for the passing, etc. And Sampdoria didn't press very high, so one of the issues Luis Alberto has, he needs to touch the ball 2-3 times. He's not able to pass it immediately. And so I think there are some issue there. And absolutely, this is not related with Sarri tactic. Even with the 3-5-2 of Inzaghi, we saw him struggling against Atalanta, for example. So I think it's a bit of both, mentally and tactical issue, right? Okay, I guess Alasdair just froze, so maybe he's going to come back. Internet issue for Alasdair McKenzie. But yeah, I thought Luis Alberto had a great performance. But again, I want to see him playing better against bigger team, because the top player of your team has to make the difference, have to have an impact in bigger teams, not in bigger matches, not against lower team like Sampdoria, who has a big history but is fighting for relegation at the moment. So it shouldn't be one of the team that could create issue for Lazio. But we have to say one thing very important is that Ciro Immobile got injured against Sampdoria, so there were a big risk that he couldn't finish the match. At what was it, half of the first half, he got hit by Ferrari, I think so, and immediately Sarri asked to Luca Romero and Cabral to warm up. Now that was surprising because obviously we don't have that many options. With Pedro out, and rumors are that Pedro could be back for the match of next Monday, because Lazio is playing next Monday against Juventus. But without Pedro, we don't have that many options there. And on the bench, we just had Cabral and Luca Romero. Cabral, who played last match, what was it, end of February against Udinese, and after that, he didn't play a single second. Would have been the replacement for Ciro Immobile. But luckily enough, Ciro finished the match. He wasn't 100% fit. You could see it. He missed a couple of good chances, but he still kept fighting. And I think that's really important when you have a player like that he gives everything. And it's a statement of Ciro Immobile, I think. Even when he's not 100% fit, even when he missed some chances, he's still there helping the team, helping Lazio getting 3 very important points, because Roma is playing tonight against Fiorentina. Atalanta won, unfortunately. And now Lazio, we have to wait and see what happens tonight. If Roma wins, well, Fiorentina is pretty much out of the competition for the Europe League. So we can say that Roma and Lazio and Atalanta still are fighting for 2 positions. If Fiorentina wins, then Lazio will be 5th. And there's a chance that we could finish above Roma, and especially in the 5th position, which should be our target, even considering that Roma has I don't remember the fixture of Roma, but I think they have Venezia and Torino. So Venezia is still fighting for relegation after beating after winning yesterday, and then Torino is not an easy match. So Lazio still have a chance to finish above Roma, especially if they don't win tonight against Fiorentina, which is a complicated match. Let's see if we have Alasdair back again. Alasdair? Yeah, you're back. I was just talking about Ciro Immobile, who got injured. There are rumors he could miss Monday's match against Juventus. What do you make about Ciro's performance?
I thought off, to be honest. It didn't surprise me that much afterwards to hear them saying he had some sort of fitness problem, because when Chiro played that, he was quite quiet, and we quietly tend to feel that something must be wrong because like him. So yeah, I mean, I guess it highlights once again the lack of a backup, which we don't need to start talking about that.
I already did. Don't worry.
Games, and that's a couple kind of areas, so I think he's probably got that anyway, given how it's going for Vlahovic at Juventus. So it would be nice for him to score against Juventus and against Vlahovic directly to kind of seal that.
Alasdair, we didn't talk about the player that scored the first goal. I know you are a big fan of him. So what do you make about Patric?
Well, he's time surely at this point.
Why were you looking at the window? Were you thinking about throwing yourself out?
Still checking that my hot is actually working properly, because I'm terrified we're going to go in again. No, it was great. I mean, I was at the stadium on Saturday with a friend of mine, which is quite funny, the goal when it went in, but it's quite funny to see it where there's probably as many people in the stand as there were celebrating because of Patric. First ever Serie A goal. Yep. I mean, it's dreadful defending. I watched it back again this morning, and he had it completely to himself. So it's as much a gimme as he's ever going to get. But it was nice, wasn't it, from a set piece across the head from a defender. Really, we talked about that before. We don't really see that happen. So there he is. But it's been a great season for him, hasn't it? I mean, it's easy to laugh when it comes to Patric, but he's our best defender this season. For me, at this point, I think it's absolutely makes no sense to not renew his contract. I mean, if he's happy to stay, I think we should be, getting him done.
Wow, how did we end it that way, right? Now we want Patric to stay. I mean, what happened to our defense? But yeah, I mean, I was in this team Saturday, and I could see that not only Patric was completely free, but even Acerbi, who misses the ball in front of him, was completely free. So I don't know what Sampdoria was doing with that defense, but Patric finally scored in Serie A. He scored this year in Europe League in a fashion way, I would say. I still didn't understand how he scored against Lokomotiv, but he did. But the thing here is this one, and it drives me crazy, Alasdair, because I read after the match, Patric had that terrific performance. He was perfect. No, after 5 minutes, he passed the ball to Caputo in front of Strakosha. I mean, how can people forget about that? Yeah, he scored, he played well, but he made a terrifying mistake, But suddenly everybody forgot about that. So, yeah.
You must be thinking of someone who can't be Patric.
And let's not forget what he did last match, right? So, but yeah, I mean, Luis Felipe is not playing anymore. I mean, this must tell us something, right?
Yeah, well, I think it tells that he's definitely going. It does tell us how well Patric's been playing as well. I mean, Sarri does like him for a reason. And look, I'm obviously joking a bit here. I don't think he's an elite level defender. I made it pretty clear over the season that I think he'll do a good job against these lower table teams, but we don't really want to put him in the team for anyone much better than that. But yeah, that reason alone, I think he's worthy of giving a new contract to, just because we have no one left. But yeah, and he deserved that moment for the season. You can tell it meant a lot to it, the way he was celebrating. It was kind of the celebration of a player who's not used to scoring goals, where he kind of doesn't really know what to, just holds out his arms in front of him and starts running. But yeah, it was a nice moment. And like I said, I think he deserves. I do hope next season, because I think he's earned it. And yeah, okay, it's not necessarily what we hope for, but it'll do for now.
Going back to Ciro Immobile, there are rumors that he couldn't be fit for next Monday, which I doubt, knowing the type of player. But in that case, do you think Cabral will start against Juventus?
It would be really interesting to see who would. Yeah, Patric maybe. He's at his goal. I don't know. There's a chance Pedro could be. I don't know if they would risk throwing him straight in and doing the kind of Anderson through the middle. I mean, Anderson recently played there already a couple of times this season, so I would expect, given Cabral has just been completely forgotten about, that Anderson would probably play through the middle, and then you'd bring in or someone on the wing instead. But I think Chiro will be there. Chiro will be there. He's always there. I wanted you, just before I cut off, actually, I wanted to ask you a question on Alberto just before we completely move on from him. Because I think we be prisoners to the moment after every match. You know, who does well is great, who does bad is terrible, and goes. But definitely it's like that this week with Alberto. How important do you think he is for Lazio? There's also talk about he leaves at the same time as Milinkovic-Savic. That's a huge players gone, but he's not the same level as Milinkovic-Savic. He's very productive, but he's got his flaws. But say again, how important do you think it is for Lazio to keep a player like Alberto, or are you happy for it to be the moment?
Well, I think the first thing is how much we get if we sell both players. I don't think Lazio has an intention to sell both of them. So if Milinkovic leave, I think Luis Alberto won't. Honestly, I think it's easier to replace Luis Alberto rather than Milinkovic-Savic. So if I had to choose, probably Luis Alberto would be the player I would be trying to sell because it's easier to replace him. But I mean, if we sell both, I see it's very difficult. It would be very difficult for Sarri to build a team. And let's not forget that next summer, the Serie A is starting very early, 12th of August. So there's not that much time to prepare, to reorganize a team, losing two of the key players. Because yes, we mentioned that Luis Alberto had a terrific season with the lower teams and not with the top one. But still, you know, I believe you go in the Champions League beating your opponents. But for example, to reach the 5th, 6th position, you have to win the matches you have to win. So against the lower team. So I think Luis Alberto is still important for that. So I would think that if Milinkovic leaves, which there are a lot of rumors about that, I don't think Luis Alberto would. I mean, it would be really, really strange to see them both leaving together, right?
It would. I mean, it's really damaging considering everything else that this team's problems. They are two of the kind of, I guess, 3 or 4 reliable players in this. but at the same time, it might be like the club's hands. You know, if Sergei is the second land in order to raise money, because Lotito's not going to pay his own money by the looks of it.
No.
Is the one who's going to raise that cash. When it comes down to the question of his own position, because if he, then we really want the club to be saying to force him to stay at the club. If an offer comes in and he's like, I want to take, he ice, because I think he is quite a difficult player to value. Because of this kind of inconsistency, his numbers are all very good. He's been playing at a very high level in a good league for a long time. But you sense that he would struggle if he went to an absolute top team. Anyway, I find it difficult to work out a realistic price for Alberto.
Well, I think Lazio, knowing Lotito, he could find a team paying him 30 million euros, just like Correa. right? I think that could be the right valuation for the player. So again, as you mentioned, if he has to leave, then the club has to sell him, especially because what you mentioned before about his mentally fitness, he has to be focused, and not always he is. So if his mind is somewhere else, then you have to let it go. But I think you can make 25, 30 million euros from Luis Alberto. So with that money, you can maybe not rebuild completely the team, but definitely improve it. So that's something you have to consider when you're talking about Luis Alberto. But again, signing
That
both.
money sorry, for that money you can get Ricci and Dennis Favreau.
Yeah, so you have
Actually, not quite.
you have a Champions League team there, right? So by the way, Mallorca's manager said Murici is our Champions League. So
He got assist on the weekend. I think they lost quite
yeah,
badly.
6-2, something like that. And that's
Yeah.
and that's huge, because who is Mallorca's goalkeeper, right? Yeah, I mean, wow, we are signing a very explosive goalkeeper. I'm really pleased.
I think another thing we need to talk about in regards to the game on Saturday is the crowd, because this is an ongoing season. The poor attendances, the failure of the club to launch any kind of season ticket program, and there was this strike from the ultras and other fans after, for the Milan game. But then Sampdoria, they lower the prices. It was 10 euros for the Stinti. It was 20 euros where I was, which is very low for the main stand. And lo and behold, they get 33,500, I think it was.
Yep.
Is it this simple? Is it just a case of lower prices and they'll get the crowd, or are we missing something?
Well, we have a question about that from Per Nielsen, asking why the low attendance of the Stadio Olimpico. I think there are so many issues, right? So many things that we have to discuss, that it's not easy. I mean, we should do a special podcast about that. But to sum it up, I think there's a part of Lazio fan who doesn't go anymore to the stadium, saying, because they think we are not giving the money to Lotito, so we are not buying the tickets of Lazio because we don't want to pay Lotito, which is completely wrong. The money doesn't go to Lotito, goes to the club. So that's a different thing. The other thing is, as you mentioned, Roma made season ticket this summer, this year. Lazio didn't. So for people like me that went to pretty much all matches, I spent like 3 times more than I would normally do with the season tickets. 3 times. So that's huge. Just to give a comparison, I went to Tribuna Tevere at Lazio Lokomotiv, that I think was the first match of Europe League this season, and I paid 40 euros. 40 euros. So it's the double of the price you paid Saturday for a match that wasn't that important, right? So it's a lot of money for the usual fans that go there. Third, it's very complicated to get to the Stadio Olimpico. Rome, it's awful to get to move. And then, there's this issue between fans and Lotito that doesn't create the atmosphere. Lazio fans are not very happy to go to the stadium. There's not the passion that it was maybe a couple of years ago, where Lazio was fighting for the Champions League, and people could dream that Lotito would finally build a big team. So people say, I prefer to stay at home and don't go to the matches. And obviously there is a ticket policy that is completely different compared to Rome. You know, we saw Roma doing season tickets, doing so many discounts offer for Christmas, for Black Friday, and so on. Lazio didn't do anything about that, and so that definitely doesn't help.
Yeah, I agree with all what everyone said. I'd also even throw in a couple more factors, a couple of those. One is a pretty basic one, is the going to the Stadio Olimpico to watch a game isn't a particularly nice match experience, in the sense that you don't get great money. If you're spending 40 euros for it, might not sound like much if you're used to going to watch Premier League matches, for example. But if you compare going to, I don't know, the Emirates to going, they're two completely different things. This ties into the problem not owning the ground. They're paying to Connie to have the stadium, but they're not really investing money in creating a buzz around the ground. On a match day, there's no real merchandise stuff, no entertainment outside the ground. It's not really, you don't go to a game to have a big day out. You go to a game to just go and watch it. And then you've got, a plastic seat and fairly crap food and drink options inside the ground, and generally a pretty bad view of the state of the pitch, where you can't really see what's going on and have to watch the game back anyway afterwards. So I think that plays into it, especially for your weak Lazio fans. It's still experience if you go there as a visitor. Like foreign fans, like to our listeners, would be definitely always worth going and getting involved in it and so on. I mean, if you're asked to go by the club like 2 or 3 times every 2 weeks, that ought to drag you down a little bit. On top of that, the final factor I mentioned is how bad the club is promoting itself. I mean, it goes beyond tickets, but it does play a part. I mean, even this Sampdoria game on sale Wednesday, I think it was. It was a few days before the game. I think we had someone messaging us asking about coming over to the game. Well, not yet. And it's about 5 days before kickoff. Yeah. And they're terrible at promoting online, but also around the city. On a Roma match day, you'll see little carts and people in Roma trying tickets to tourists, trying match that's on that night, at San Pietro, at Spagna, wherever, all the big hotspots. And last year, you don't see anything like that happening. So they're also not doing much to bring in your full fan.
No, not at all. And again, the tickets was out Wednesday afternoon, I think, at around 4:00. So they really had 3-4 days to sell them, which is simply embarrassing, considering that, other teams start selling the tickets 2 weeks before. We just for 4 days, because we usually do sold out in a couple of hours. So we don't need 2 weeks time to do it. One point that you mentioned, for example, Saturday, I had to park far away from the stadium because I arrived around 7:00. So nearly 2 hours before the match, and it was already packed, because Lazio fan now come to the stadium early and then goes to Ponte Milvio to take a drink and meet friends there, and then move to the stadium. So as it's so bad to eat at the stadium, people prefer to go to Ponte Milvio. That is a nice place, and eat and drink there, and then move to the Stadio Olimpico. So it's really complicated. Bus get diverted the days of the match, so you don't even know if you can rely on bus to get there or to move around Rome during matches. So it's complicated, and we mentioned it before, right? Stadio Olimpico, it's not the perfect stadium, because let's not forget there's rugby playing there, there's athletic playing there. Now this week there's a tennis tournament, so it's going to be even more complicated to get to the stadium. So it's complicated, and Lazio just add on to this issue. So as you can see, there's multiple issues going on there because of this. Even though, I mean, against Sampdoria, we had a lot of people there, so that's good. Now the question is, the last match of the season, Lazio Verona, will Lazio again offer this same type of prices, and when those tickets will be on sale? Because it could be a decisive match, Alasdair.
Exactly, and I think that taking into consideration what we just said, the fact that they got 33,500 impressive, considering how late went on sale and all those other factors. I think that's the base crowd Lazio should be getting every week. Well, if you promote it properly, if you price it properly, and try and sort out some other issues to make it a more appealing idea to get there. Complaints about my wife.
Ali,
I think what they should be getting. Roma fans will try the Lazio crowds are low because they don't fan exist. That's not true. The season of the Scudetto charge 19, there was like 45,000 Bologna. I mean, the average crowd was closer to 40 then, because everyone invested in it and didn't quite. Those other factors didn't come into it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
I mean, we should do a special podcast about that, but we'll try to make it. Anyway, Alasdair, I think it's time to wrap it up because your internet issue are important. Thanks again, everybody, for listening, for joining us. We'll be back not Monday because Lazio's playing Monday, so probably on Tuesday after Juventus Lazio, a very, very important match. Lazio need to get points out of that. Maybe a win, it would be huge, but points are much needed to keep the Europa League dream alive and the fifth spot alive. So again, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks, Alasdair. We're going to be back next week. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.